Hear the stories of men and women switching hustles and escaping the odds through entrepreneurship after prison. Not only will these stories inspire you, but also unlock business tips for financial freedom. Thank you all for tuning in to another dope episode of Escaping the Odds. I am your host, Aaron Smith, and today we have a good brother on here, Mr. Richard Bronson. We interviewed the formerly incarcerated who are now successful entrepreneurs, and this brother came home from prison and really hit the ground running. Started a social network called the Commissary.club, but before then, he started 70millionjobs.com to help men and women such as myself be able to come home and be able to survive and provide for their families through gainful employment. So he switched it up a little bit, but yet still helping out this population. And we're going to get into his backstory and Commissary Club and the whole nine. So I want to welcome Mr. Richard Bronson to the show. What's going on, man?
Hey, Aaron. Nice to see you. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Oh, no, absolutely, man. Hey, you're doing some pretty remarkable things, kind of changing the landscape as it relates to a place where the formerly incarcerated can come and actually kind of hang out and kind of meet other people that's been through the same situation they have, exchange resources and all things of that nature. And so I think it's pretty a dope concept, and I want to get into that. But before we get into that, I want to kind of get into your backstory and kind of talk about how you came up with the idea and even your whole experience, like leading up to prison and actually in prison. So if you can walk us through that, that'd be great.
Yeah, sure. I am from New York, like you, and
Chicago.
You're from Chicago? Is that
Yeah,
right?
Chicago. Yeah.
Oh, I thought New York. Excuse me. I went to school in Chicago. All right.
About the same though.
Yeah, too cold is what.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
I'm from New York. Sorry,
Yeah.
and you sound like you're from New York. And I used to work on Wall Street, and I worked at some big banks, and I made a lot of money. And then at a certain point, I actually started working at this firm on Long Island called Stratton Oakmont. And I eventually became partner of this firm. And if you saw the movie by Martin Scorsese called Wolf of Wall Street, that was who we were.
Wow.
And I was very much involved with all of that. It was just as crazy as the movie showed it to be.
Oh my God! Wow.
It was off the chain completely, 24/7. And we had a lot of fun. We broke a lot of laws. But I left there and I moved to South Florida. I moved to Miami and I started my own firm.
Okay.
And it was, based really about the prior firm. It would be run the same way. And I had a great deal of success with it. Within a couple of years, we were doing about $100 million in business. And I had about 500 employees throughout the country.
Wow.
And I was making a lot of money. That was pretty serious, and I was collecting art, and I opened up a nightclub on South Beach.
Oh, wow.
The hottest club, and, driving Ferraris and dating supermodels and, all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
In Miami Beach, which is a lot of fun.
What year was this?
This was 1991 to like 97.
Okay, gotcha.
But unfortunately, I was breaking laws while I was doing it, and I knew what I was doing was wrong. I can't say that it was someone else or the government made a mistake. They didn't make a mistake. I knew eventually I'd have to pay the price, and indeed I did. One day, a couple of people with badges and guns on their hip, knocked on my door and said, "Do you mind if we talk to you for a minute?" And then at that point, I just knew, okay, let the deal go down. I've been waiting for this to happen.
Yeah.
Now it's finally happening. So, they said to me, well, if you like and help us bring cases against other people, then you probably won't have to go to prison. You're still going to be indicted. You'll get a felony, but, you're not going to have to do time. Do you want to do that? I said, no.
Right.
I feel bad enough about shit that I've done. I'm not going to ruin other people's lives to save my own ass. I'll never forgive myself for that. So, I went away to prison. and I went away for a couple of years, and I lost everything. I used to be, I had art, I had, money, and then I had nothing. And I came out of prison, I had less than nothing. I was homeless, actually,
Wow. Wow.
and I was completely destitute, and I really had no idea what to do with my life. I used to be, I used to have this huge ego and everything, and I was probably a complete jerk most of the time.
Mm.
But, you go away, you're scrubbing toilets all
Yeah.
day. If that doesn't teach you a little humility, nothing is.
Nothing will, right?
Nothing is. And I got news for you, that was a good lesson to learn,
Yeah.
And so I came out of prison, I was certainly a changed person. And it took me a while, honestly. It wasn't like I hit the ground running, because
Yeah.
I couldn't figure out, who was I? Was I a home run hitter, or should I just, take it easy and start slow and rebuild things? And I had no idea. And nobody was really around to help me, to tell me. So I wasted time, and it was a very difficult time in my life, as it is for most people.
What year is this?
I got out in 2005.
Okay, gotcha.
So eventually I actually found a home working at a nonprofit in the reentry space in New York called Defy Ventures.
Hmm.
And that was good. It was good work. And I felt good, my soul. I was doing something that wasn't crooked. But
Right.
when I would think about it, I go, how much impact are we really having? How much impact are all of these well-meaning, nonprofit organizations? How much impact are they having? And the answer is really not that much, unfortunately. The unemployment rate in this country for folks with records right now is over 50%. The rate of recidivism, how 3 out of 4 people who leave jail or prison are going back to jail or prison, 75%. That isn't good. And I don't have to tell you, it's just this cycle that just never ends.
Yeah.
And, I just looked at the way reentry was being handled and the way it's been handled for, I don't know, hundreds of years. And I'm saying it's just not working. It's completely broken. And I think anybody could do better, and I thought, okay, maybe I can too. I thought, first of all, I'm going to do it not as another nonprofit, because the world doesn't need another one of them, but I'm going to do it as a for-profit company, because that's what I know.
Yeah.
And for-profit, nonprofits are not as aggressive. They get good people working there, but they're kind of thoughtful. They're smart, but they don't really do much, truly. And I just felt like we could be a lot more aggressive, and we could be accountable, and we could really grow this thing and I can attract for-profit
Capital.
people.
Yeah.
And I can attract capital as well. That's a good point. Nonprofits, have to rely on donations, and they sort of live month to month, which is no way to run a business. So, I was very lucky. I came up with this plan, and there's an organization out in Silicon Valley called Y Combinator. And Y Combinator is considered globally the very, very top #1 accelerator program. So they take companies, some of their companies you've heard of, like Reddit and Dropbox,
Airbnb.
Airbnb and DoorDash,
Hmm.
and a whole lot more. And they invest in them, and then they train them. And they train them in a lot of things, how to run a tech business. They train them in how to go out and raise money, and how to do a pitch deck, and how to pitch, and all of these things that you don't know, people wouldn't normally know unless you learned. And I will tell you, I know a lot of your listeners are entrepreneurial and have an interest in building a big successful company, which I think is great. And that's one way to sort of take control of your economic future. Y Combinator, you can apply, and you just go online to Y Combinator and just, you'll see where you can apply. But they also have something called the Startup School, where they will accept pretty much anybody, and it's done online. It doesn't cost a penny, and they give you access to all of this information that you could possibly need, from the smartest people around, truly. And I learned so much there. Without it, I would have been nowhere. Going through it, I felt like I became like a made man in Silicon Valley, where people would respect the fact that I went through this program and I knew what to say and what not to say and whatever. And I was able to raise, a couple of $1 million for my company.
Okay. And which company? 70 million jobs?
For 70, yes. So the company was 70 million jobs, and the company is the first for-profit national employment platform for people with criminal records.
Mm-hmm.
So the whole point here is unemployment correlates directly with recidivism. If people don't get a job, well, guess what? They got to get money somehow. They're going to break the law if they don't get a job.
Yeah.
And they got to put food, they have kids, they got to put food on the table. I mean, what the fuck else are they supposed to do? If they get a job, they almost never get in trouble again. They live happily ever after. It's that cut and dry. So I said, well, that's employment's the silver bullet. That's what I'm going to work on. So we launched 70 million jobs. And a couple of years ago, raised money, as I say. I was out in San Francisco. I moved the company to Los Angeles, which is where I am now. Mm-hmm. And we were successful. We've been successful in helping thousands of people get jobs. And I'm really proud of it because that's far more than any organization's ever come close to. And we were actually making money too, which was pretty amazing. Unfortunately, the coronavirus had other plans for us, because our people were working in manufacturing and construction and warehousing and shipping and meat packing and all these other jobs. And when the coronavirus hit, those were the first to go.
Right.
They all got laid off, every one of them. And our business, which was doing great, all of a sudden dropped like a rock to like zero.
Wow.
It was like overnight. So what do? It's either we pack it in or we go to plan B. And plan B was ultimately what me and my team chose to do. And that was to build out Commissary.club, which is the first social network for folks with records. So it's kind of
let me ask this question, right? Like how easy or how challenging was it for you to pivot like that? You had put all your time and energy into 70 million jobs. Of course, it was something that was really heavy on your heart, because you've been through the whole experience. So for someone who's listening and they have a business and they're trying to figure out, do I let my baby go and work on another baby, or like what kind of do you get them to that?
Yeah, that's a great classic question because there's two schools of thought here. Mm-hmm. And my answer is not going to resolve this for anybody. Yes. On the one hand, the modern thinking now is if you're doing some kind of tech business, particularly, the idea is to get it up running, get it online as quickly as you can. Don't worry if it's not perfect, okay? Mm-hmm. You create what's called an MVP, a minimally viable product. In other words, it gets the point across, people get it.
Right.
And then if people really like it, the market likes it, then you're on to something and you just start building it out and improving it. And if they don't, you walk away from it and you don't go down with the ship. You don't waste time and money. You go on to the next one because good ideas are a dime a dozen. So that's one school of thought. At the same time, there's another school of thought that says a good entrepreneur, a good founder is gritty and determined and resilient and tough and keeps pounding away and pounding away. Take Airbnb, for example. Everyone knows what Airbnb is. They rent out rooms in people's homes for people who are traveling. But that wasn't their original business. Their original business was providing air mattresses for people traveling. And they worked at that, and it wasn't going anywhere. And normally you would say, all right, that was a stupid idea, just shit can the whole thing and forget about it. But they kept at it. And then accidentally, they hit upon doing what their current business model is. They went public, I think, was it last week? And now the three founders are multi-billionaires because they hung in there. So there's conflicting advice that you can get. And you got to just trust your heart ultimately. Listen, being an entrepreneur, the smartest ones who went to the best colleges, and all the advantages, most of those don't work out. So how are guys like us,
Yeah.
who have less resources, how are we supposed to make it? All I can tell you is if you were a hustler, like your sweatshirt, I'm going to sell you I'm going to sell sweatshirts right now. The
Right.
idea is if you were an entrepreneur, if you were successful on the street, if you were selling drugs and you did it at and you were doing a lot of it, you're a fucking entrepreneur. You should be doing this. Just switch the hustle a little bit.
Right.
And the idea is not to make money. The idea is to keep money. And
Mm.
I made a lot of money, but I have nothing to show for it. So that's not the approach.
Wow.
So we switched to this thing, Commissary.club, which is a social network, which is sort of like Facebook for people, for ex-cons, basically. And we still do employment, but now, like on Facebook, we are connecting this population, 70 million of us, 1 in 3 adults. We're connecting, so that's a mind-blowing statistic. 1 in 3 adults have a record. But mostly we sort of live very sort of solitary lives. We're sort of in the shadows. We want to stay out of the system. We want to keep our head below the radar. But the problem is we never, there's this connection gap. We're not there to hook each other up. We're not there to provide role models or give advice. You leave prison and they put you on supervised release. And they tell you, well, you got to get a job, you got to get a home, you got to get your life together. Oh, but by the way, you can't talk to anybody with a record. Well, who the hell are you supposed to talk to? Who do you know? It's the only people I knew, and I wasn't allowed to do it. Well, we want to create an environment where people can talk and learn and inspire and hook each other up. Women did that in the women's movement. They call that sisterhood. As far as I'm concerned, everybody with a record is a brother and a sister. And if we all looked after each other, and if we all spoke with one voice, we could elect any president we want. We could get a whole lot out of life. And mostly we could say, we're not second-class citizens. We did our time. Enough is enough.
No, absolutely, man. And I was talking to someone about how, like with the women's movement or even the LGBTQ movement, it's like they become a protected class, and I think we have the definitely the manpower to be able to do something like that on that level. You know what I mean? Just a matter of having platforms such as yours to be able to kind of bring everyone together
into one room, sort of. Right. It's and that's real. It's never been done. So that's what we're trying to do on the site. And people are connecting with each other, and they have groups that they can go in if you're interested in finance or sports or music or whatever. And you can connect with each other based upon that. Or if you're in Chicago and other people in Chicago and you want to connect, I mean, these days you're not going to hook up with people too much, but you could. So that's exactly the point. When you consider, maybe we don't have a lot of money, but together we do. Together, we buy a lot of mobile phones, and we buy a lot of sneakers, and we buy a lot of food, and we go, we watch a lot of TV and video game and on and on and on. And yet no company takes the time or considers us worthy of just marketing to us. No bank does. Hey, you got a criminal record? No problem. Come on in and open an account. We'll welcome you. Nobody does that. To me, that's wrong. And to me, it's also a business opportunity. Because if no one's doing it, I'm going to do it.
You took the words right out of my mouth with that. So, like, if you can walk me through, like, what does that whole process look like when I do sign on to the Commissary.club? As either like basically, what's the business model? I'm sorry, what's the business model of Commissary.club?
Okay, that's a good question you're asking. First of all, there's no cost or charge to anybody. So that's number one. You come on, and this is designed exclusively for folks with records. In other words, people ask me, well, why don't people go to Facebook? I go, people do go to Facebook, but the problem that we hear, people tell us, is that Facebook is where grandmothers are and little kids are and whatever. And I don't feel comfortable there. That's not my place. We deserve our own place, number one. We all deserve our own place. So this is what we want to create. We make money, or we will make money, a variety of different ways. We'll continue our employment work, and with that, companies pay us, to get people, basically, in a variety of different ways. So it's companies there. That's one way. Number two, like Facebook, we'll have advertising. That's where Facebook makes all of their money.
Absolutely.
$85 billion a year or some ridiculous amount. They control more advertising than anybody by far. Them and Instagram, which they own. So we'll have that. But I think the biggest place we'll get is we figured out how to get people jobs. And right now, governments, I'm in California, the state of California, the city of Los Angeles, the county of Los Angeles, New York, Chicago, believe it or not, they spend about $350 billion on reentry to help people so that they get jobs, but that ain't working. To help them get homes, but that ain't working. They're essentially getting very little value for all this money they're spending. We figured out how to get people jobs. That part we cracked. And we know they can pay us a little bit, or they can continue paying a lot for lousy results. So we're marketing our services to governments, and that's where the money is. As I say, there's and the need is there, and they know how lousy the system is. I mean, it's the only thing the Democrats and Republicans agree on is how fucked up the criminal justice system is. So we can do some of these things a little bit better, and we think they'll be very happy to pay us. And I've been offered that already, so I know that to be the case. So that'll be the primary driver.
If I'm thinking of starting a business, Richard, how should I be thinking about scaling that business? Like really taking it to the next level? Like what are some of the things I should be keeping in mind?
Okay. There's certain classic mistakes that entrepreneurs make. Number one, they move much too slowly. Okay. They want to wait until everything is perfect before they go out in the market with it. Why do they do that? Because they're afraid of rejection.
There you go.
So they tell themselves, well, I'm not ready yet. I'm not ready yet. I'm not ready yet. Bullshit. The best thing you can do is get it out there and let the market tell you. It doesn't matter what I think or you think about our businesses. It matters what the market thinks.
Right.
So if you're doing a catering business or a sweatshirt business or whatever, even if it's not perfect, get it out there. People will get the idea. And you don't go to your friends and you don't go to your parents. You go to people who don't know you, who are potential customers, and you say, hey, this is what I'm doing. What do you think? And it's not perfect, but it will be. But what do you think, basically? And if they go, wow, that's really cool, that sweatshirt of yours, I don't think I like that color. Well, don't worry about the color. I can change the color. But what about the concept? Does the concept make sense? So number one, get out as quickly as you can. Okay? Get out as quickly as you can. That's one thing. Another thing is worrying about the wrong things. I can't tell. When I worked at Defy, we were teaching entrepreneurialism there. And I can't tell you how long. I mean, I would talk to people and I go, so what's going on with your business? And they go, it's going real good. Okay, tell me, what are you up to? Well, I'm working on getting my LLC. I can't tell you how many time I heard this. There's nothing less important than that. That's not, again, what matters. You have to be able to say, what are the make and break things about my business? Getting an LLC, first of all, you could do it online in 15 minutes. So it shouldn't be taking you very, very long. And that's just a legal thing. It has nothing to do with your business. The idea is get your business out there and show it to people. If you're in a catering business, like a lot of brothers that I came across through Defy, they wanted to do that, and they had their recipes or the mama's recipes or whatever. I go, what have you done? Well, I'm working on my business card. Another meaningless thing. I go, no, that's not what you should do. You should go home and you should I go, do you have a specialty dish you do? Yeah, I do ribs or whatever it is. I go, get little cups and prepare samples of your ribs, make like 50 of them. Could you do that? Yeah. Put them on a tray, pick out a building in Chicago. That's when people were working in buildings or an apartment building. Go in there and knock on doors one after another and go, hi, my name's Richard Bronson. I have a catering business that's brand new. I think you're going to love my food. Can I give you a taste? Now, not everybody's going to like it. Not everyone's going to want it. But if you go to 50 people, someone's going to say, man, this is really good. If it's good, if it's bad, you shouldn't be in the business.
Right.
And I hate to tell you, but that's tough love. It's better to find out now than to waste time. So let the market tell you and get it out there. You can't screw it up. Get it out there.
Yeah. No, that's excellent advice, man. Really. Oftentimes, I started doing something else before I started escaping odds. Actually, in the tech industry, and thankfully, I had a mentor who's also in the tech field, and for a while I was feeling kind of bad about failing forward. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm like, man, I almost felt like a quitter. But as he explained it to me, just based on his experience, and he gave me that term to fail forward. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And like, hey, look, you know what I'm saying? You just got to accept that it was a failure, but not like that you failed. That okay, it's something else that you wanted to do,
And you
and that's
learn from it,
I
and you'll
learned.
be smarter the next time. And
Absolutely.
nobody cares, if the next idea is a good one. In Silicon Valley, where Y Combinator is where we were and where the tech world exists, it's almost considered a rite of passage. Like if you haven't failed, they won't trust you. That the greatest lessons come from failing, and that if you fail and yet come back, that really says a lot about your character. If you fail and you go, oh, shit, I'm a failure, I can't do this, goodbye, they don't want to invest with that person.
Right.
They want the person who just keeps coming back, like a rock'em sock'em robot. Nothing's going to stop. You're going to make it, with or without your help,
And I'm thinking about like based on what you told me as far as like your life, right? Okay, you were at Stratton Oakmont, and you had this lavish life as being like this banker or someone in the financial market. That was one life, right?
Yes.
Then you went to prison.
Yes.
A whole nother life, right?
Yes.
Meeting all different kind of extraordinary, I call them extraordinary people. You know what I'm saying? I'm sure that you met some people that you remember, like a whole lot of characters, both good and bad.
Yes.
Then now release, and now you have to reinvent yourself.
Yes.
Right. And so the question I have for you is like, all the people that you came across in prison, a lot of great entrepreneurial mind, good ideas and things of that nature. What pretty much differentiated them from, I guess, the people that you met like in your previous life? You know what I mean? As far as like on Wall Street, and then even now in your present life, the people in the tech world.
That's a good question. I will tell you that there's a certain gene that successful people have.
Yeah.
And their success comes in many, many different ways, obviously. But what all successful people, in my experience, and as you point out, I'm an old man with a lot of experience who's had many, many lives, as you point out. Thank you for making me feel older.
Experience.
Yeah, okay. What successful people have is the ability to take a deep breath and dive in the deep water and say, what the fuck, I'll figure out how to swim when I get there. A lot of people, they're smart, they're good people, there's nothing wrong with them, but they'll come up with 100 reasons why it's not a good idea to pursue their dream. And they'll take a safer path, and in life, like investing, there's a risk reward thing. The more the risk, the more the reward. The less the risk, the less the reward. You want to take a safe path, go work at the post office, go work at McDonald's, go work at a big company where, you're never going to be the owner. I never, in sports, you can be a singles hitter, and there's successful people who hit singles for average. But I always saw it myself. I was put on this earth for a reason, to do something great and swing for the seats and take a chance. I'm a gambler, and I trust myself, my ability to sort of deal with it as it comes along. And sometimes that's worked out, and sometimes it hasn't for me. I admit it. But that's that's the difference between really successful people and people who aren't. They had they just had the whats to go ahead and just go for it. And I always tell people, if that's really what you want, if you want to hit a home run, you just gotta take a deep breath and go for it.
Hey, so were you surprised about the different men that you met while you were incarcerated? Because I mean, I was, what I mean, and I'm from like the inner city, and I'm from, I've been around these kind of guys, but not in that capacity as far as being incarcerated. And even like knowing like the business mind of some of these men, even myself, I got back to the essence of who I was. Like prison allowed for me to really, it's gonna sound crazy, but I think this will resonate with you, that like a sense of freedom and creativity. You know what I'm saying? Because I had the opportunity to kind of like really get back to who I was. And part of that, I was able to meet other people that was like-minded like me. And in the beginning, I was kind of like surprised, like, wow, man, a lot of these cats, man, such as myself, is like, we're taking on a whole nother level, different businesses and stuff like that. It's just that we wasn't exposed in a lot of cases to the resources and things of that
Right.
nature. Did you find it the same thing? Because it was guys like you that I could think back on that were like coming from Wall Street that really laced my boots up, if you will, like mentor me. And so did you notice the same thing while you were
Yeah,
incarcerated?
absolutely. I
Okay.
had a lot of guys, who were a little younger, and who I became friendly with, who
Yeah,
I would not have come in contact with, like you wouldn't have come in contact with some hedge fund rich
absolutely.
white
Yeah.
guy, middle-aged white guy. I
Yeah.
wouldn't come in contact with some of the people that I did.
Mhm.
What I learned, so that was a great lesson for me, is that number one, people are people.
Mhm.
And it's not like you're in prison and you're some evil person. Morality it's not black and white, number one. There are good people and there are bad people, and there are good, in prison and elsewhere.
Yeah.
And, I believe, and I came across a lot of guys who, as you said, had they been born into a different world, a different set of circumstances, socioeconomically, they would have gone to school at Stanford or Harvard or whatever, and would have had that path and never would have seen a day in prison. And whereas maybe in the world they grew up in, there were no obvious paths other than a life, slinging drugs. That's where you make money. That's where other people did it. That's where your brother did it. That's where maybe your father did it, and you're going to follow suit, like I followed suit, and you use what's around you, and that's what you learn. I found that there were many, many guys who, who I became friendly with, who I used to go to the weight pile with, and we hung out, was in bands playing with them. So they
Yeah.
became my buddies, and they were very eager to learn what I had to tell them, to
Yeah.
teach them. And they wanted to make sure that we stayed connected, when we got out, because they were smart and they took it
Yeah.
as an opportunity. It's like networking,
Yeah.
that goes on all
Yeah.
the time. You can do networking in prison. When I was in prison, Jared Kushner, who was Trump's son-in-law,
Yeah.
his father was in prison with me.
Okay.
And there were congressmen and there were successful business people and all types, and because I was in prison in Florida, so a lot of people knew me. When I walked into prison, I'm walking through the yard and all these people are coming up to me and they go, I know you, they all knew me. And I go,
Yeah.
I feel like, I was like some mobbed up guy or something. They
Yeah.
go, I went to your nightclub, or I used to deal drugs at your nightclub, or I did this, or I did that. So, and they read about me and all this other shit. And they all became my friends, and we got to do the time, you got to hang out with somebody.
Yeah.
And they were entrepreneurs. We were talking about a guy before. His name is Cos Marte, who went through this Defy Venture program. He's in New York, and in prison he was fat, and he was sick because he was so fat, and he was in solitary for like 6 months straight, and he had to lose weight. So he came up with this whole workout program, and he got out of prison, and he was a huge drug dealer. He supplied Wall Street with a lot of blow, back in the day. So that's why he was in. He comes out and he decides, I'm going to build a fitness company. I'm going to build a chain of gyms, and he calls it Con Body. I'm sorry. And it's like a prison yard workout system. And he's been enormously successful. He is a real entrepreneur, and he'd be a great entrepreneur no matter what. You are that. Okay.
Absolutely.
You are clearly that. You have the gene. You wear it on your forehead. Okay. So I recognize that. And you just got to make sure you're doing, what the best way to use your precious time, and to go for it. And why not you? Like, who the hell is that much better than you or smarter than you or whatever?
Yeah.
Nobody is.
Yeah.
Just believe enough and take a deep breath and just throw yourself into it. And I'm telling you, someone like you has great success lying ahead.
No, absolutely, man. Thank you for that. I appreciate that coming from you.
It's obvious.
Yeah, thank you, man. So what's next for Commissary Club, man? What can we expect going into 2021? 2020 has been crazy, man. So
This year is over. So we have a lot of cool things going on. We're in LA. Nipsey Hussle was great in LA, and everybody loved him. We were approached by his brother, and we are working out details with Atlantic Records to do the next great rap artist who would end up, the winner would get a contract with Atlantic Records and work on Nipsey's brother's, work with him as well. And we're very excited about that. We're in talks with some people about doing a show about prisons for TV. And we have something that everybody is invited to. It's called The Yard. And it's Thursday night. So if you go to commissary.club, and we're going to get you on there, Aaron, but for your people watching, who are in prison, we all, every day you'd have, an hour or 90 minutes or whatever to go out in the yard and get some fresh air. And, you'd see your friends, and maybe you'd be on the bleacher seats if they had them, or a picnic table or somewhere you would just hang out. And, you would talk about everything and nothing, wherever the conversation went, and you just kick it with them, and, you'd laugh and you'd yell and you'd carry on. But, it was important. We do that every Thursday night. And if you go to commissary.club, and we have some guests on who are really interesting and funny. And, it's not, we don't want it to be too serious. Of course, sometimes it is. And people sometimes, have a lot of emotions about their time spent down. But we also remember the times when we laughed very hard as well. And I would invite everybody to come check it out. And, mostly so you can be with your brothers and sisters. Nobody understands you like people who've been through it. And from my point of view, if we're not looking after each other, then shame on us. That's what I think. So that's what we're trying to do. And I welcome everybody to, kind of be part of that.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that, Richard, man. And you're absolutely right, man, as far as the camaraderie.
Right.
I'm saying in that environment. I tell people all the time that, like, most of my closest friends are still incarcerated, and it's like, because you can spend, once you're in there, you spending 24 hours with someone.
Yep.
Right. And so 1 year spending 24 hours with somebody every day is probably like 10, 20 years somebody on the street, because you don't see them every day, right? You don't see them in their good, bad, their emotional issues, their problems with their wives and girlfriends and baby mamas, all that kind of stuff. And Yeah, so it's a different kind of dynamic, man. Yeah. So I'm definitely looking forward to coming on the yard, man, and just supporting any way that I can. I believe in what you're doing. I think it's pretty dope, and just how you switch hustles and kind of win an environment, man, that you was never would have thought in a million years that you that you'd be immersed into. But came out and kind of seen the value in it and wanted to provide a service that's valuable, I believe. So I think it's pretty dope and cool, man. So I look forward to seeing everything you're doing, 21, man, and also definitely
Likewise.
staying in contact with you, man. Gotta pick your brain, as if we were on the yard. You know what I'm saying? Sit down on the bleachers or the
We could
picnic table.
do some business together, there's
Yeah,
things we
absolutely.
could do together. It sounded like that was very evil when I said we can do some business together, but I don't mean that. I mean, but you're building a media empire, and I
Absolutely.
and I have interest in that too.
Yeah,
So,
definitely.
there's lots of things that, and my feeling is along these lines is, there are other good people, smart people who got their hustle, and we're not enemies, and it's not like a zero sum game. Well, you're successful, that means I can't be. We can all
Right.
be successful. We can all help each other be successful. We can all, celebrate at the top. The
Yeah,
day's going to come
yeah,
when clubs are open again, and
yeah,
we can
yeah.
get together and enjoy,
Yes.
an adult drink together and listen to music together and dance and have fun and celebrate.
Yeah.
My message is always, listen, what we've gone through has made us better, stronger people.
Oh,
We've
absolutely.
learned, we've gained strength, we've
Mhm.
gained wisdom, and yeah, I certainly don't wish that I certainly would have preferred not going to prison, but having done it, I got a lot out of it, and I'm
Yeah.
proud of who I am, and I'm proud of that I did my time honorably,
Yeah.
and I bring that all of that stuff to any situation I'm in now. So I don't apologize, you
Yeah.
know. I don't apologize. I did what I did, and I did it. I did the best that I can do, and I gained from it, and I'm a better man for it. And if you don't dig that, then that's on you.
It is what it is. Oh, so tell the audience, man, where they can reach out to you, man, or reach out and check out Commissary Club and all the contact information.
Yeah. All right. So commissary.club is the website, and please check it out. And then there's instructions if you want to register to be there for the yard, which is Thursday night. You got to sort of get your name on the list there, and we have a lot of people who sign up for that. And I'm going to give you my email,
Okay.
which is richard@commissary.club. And if you have questions, or you want to share what you're up to, or you want to tell me what we're doing wrong, whatever you want to do, or just to say hello, I welcome you to please do it. I love to hear from everybody. And, I'm really very, very appreciative, that you would consider having me on your show. And I think you're doing great, and you're doing great work too, so please keep it up.
All right, thanks. I appreciate that. Well, I want to thank the audience for tuning in to another dope episode of Escaping the Odds. We are in season two. Season one was really, really great, man. Really a learning experience, man. Really enjoyed all the guests I have. And this season, man, we continue to do remarkable things. Don't forget to review on Apple Podcasts, the YouTube Escaping the Odds, escapingtheodds.com. You can watch all archive videos as well. Got the merchandise Switch Hustles by Escaping the Odds. Don't forget to support that. And yeah, just check me out Facebook, Instagram, pretty much everywhere. And as we like to say here, opportunities over penitentiaries, unlocking freedom. So I want to thank everybody for tuning on in. Continue to rock with us. Don't forget to support Commissary Club. And yeah, just let's rock out with us and change the narrative. Thanks a lot, bro. Appreciate you coming on.
Have a good night, everybody.
All right.